If you've ever wished you had a podcasting pro with nearly a decade of experience whispering growth secrets into your ear, that's exactly what you'll get when you tune into Podcast Growth Tools with me, your host, Kylie Chandler. This is the ultimate show for you if you're ready to grow your podcast audience, skyrocket engagement, and turn your show into a traffic-driving, list-building powerhouse. I've been in the podcasting world since 2015, helping creators like Amy Porterfield grow their shows to over 1 million downloads a month. My superpower? Breaking down proven podcast strategies and marketing techniques into step-by-step guidance you can actually implement without fluff, overwhelm, or guesswork. On this show, we're getting real about what actually moves the needle when it comes to growing your podcast audience and using it to boost your email list growth. From actionable insights and expert interviews to behind-the-scenes secrets, I'll help you turn your podcast into a traffic-driving, list-growing machine. Grab your earbuds, hit subscribe, and let's take your podcast to the next level. Well, hello and welcome to Podcast Growth Tools. I cannot wait for you to get today's episode because I am sitting down and geeking out on marketing things with Cassie Tucker, host of Marketing Happy Hour and marketing strategist, entrepreneur. She's so brilliant. Okay, so what do we talk about? We talk all about how to use marketing within your business when it's changing, when it's evolving so quickly, when the digital marketing landscape is constantly changing. She tells you exactly what you need to be doing to stay ahead of the trends. Make sure that you are being innovative with them, that you are implementing them. We also talk a ton about her podcast. So she's been podcasting for 4 years. She has a ton of experience under her belt. She's going to share her favorite growth strategies. She's going to share where her podcast sits within her business and how to create super fans. So I love this conversation. Some of the stuff she shared, I'm like taking notes. I need to implement myself because she's such a brilliant marketer with so much experience under her belt. You're going to absolutely love her. So let's get into this episode with Cassie. But before we do, I would love to invite you to go grab my free resource. It is an email and podcast growth playbook where you will get swipe files, templates that you can take, update and personalize them and use them within your business to grow your podcast, grow your email list at the same time in tandem. You can grab that at podcastmarketinghub.com/playbook. That's podcastmarketinghub.com/playbook. All right, let's dive into this amazing episode with Cassie. I know you're going to love her. Welcome to the show, Cassie. I'm so excited for today's conversation.
Oh my gosh, I am so stoked too. Thank you for having me. We were talking off record. Like, this is such an honor to chat with you. So I'm looking forward to it.
I know. I think we have a lot in common, and I love geeking out on marketing. So I'm here for it.
Me too. I'm ready.
So let's dive right in. What lights you up about marketing, and what made you want to start a marketing consulting business?
Oh my God. What lights me up? That's such a great question. I think the biggest thing is just the opportunities that I work with a lot of small business owners. So the opportunities that small business owners don't realize that they have with marketing. And typically it's a few just simple adjustments and optimizations to their approach that make all the difference. So I think for me, it's that element and it's the creativity of marketing. And there's not just a one size fits all approach to how you develop your plan and execute it. And so showing small business owners who have little to no internal marketing support the ropes and like really just the opportunity with that is so incredibly exciting for me. And I absolutely love it. So what made me actually get into it? I did not ever picture myself doing this. For me, I really saw an opportunity to do consulting a little bit better than what I had experienced in the past. So I worked for agencies, I worked for small businesses providing marketing, and I noticed that a lot of times clients felt like just a number or were approached as just a number. You know, it was kind of checking boxes throughout the day, checking in, but there wasn't really that customer service element to making sure that we really understand the deep needs of the consumer and help them one to one. And even though we're working with other clients, like how do we make them feel like the only client? I have a background in hospitality as well. So I was very conscious of customer service and how that's infused into the client experience. So I think for me, I just saw that opportunity to provide a better experience overall to clients and just being able to help them on that deeper level and get to know them a little bit further to help them execute their plans. And again, as I mentioned with small business owners, seeing them light up when they realize like there's a light at the end of the tunnel with marketing, there's a light at the end of the tunnel with these products they're launching, and how do we get them out there into the world? And it's just having that person and being able to come in myself and show them like, hey, this is how we're going to do it and this is how it's going to work. And it's just having that person that is there for them to help bring their dreams to life, really.
I love that. And I love that you focus on small business owners because there's so many that say like I'm not a good marketer, and for you to give them empower them to be like actually it's not as complicated as you think. This is what we're
Mhm.
going to do. I bet that's so rewarding. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I
great.
love it. I love it.
Good. Well, let's talk about your podcast, Marketing Happy
Yeah.
Hour, which I love. And what one thing that's pretty unique, and I'm all about like niching down as a podcaster. Like my niche is female entrepreneurs who have a podcast and have like a digital product. And you really focus on having, millennial and Gen Z and really serving them and speaking to them in the way that they understand marketing, they understand the online space. So how do you make sure that you're creating content that's very relevant to them and that speaks deeply to them so that when they come and look at your podcast, they're like, oh, this episode I need to listen to, and this one I do too?
I think the biggest thing for me is actually having conversations with the audience and the people that are listening. And because for me, the audience that I serve, I am the audience. So that's helpful too, right? So, like, I'm able to kind of understand what do I need either currently or what did I need when I was a year, 2 years out of college, kind of figuring out what I'm doing and how do I learn and how do I grow myself. And so, kind of internally thinking about that, but also just asking the people listening, So for me, for example, anytime someone reaches out to me and they're like, I love the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm like, what do you love about it? Like what are you looking for? Like what episodes would be helpful in the future? What kind of content can I provide to you to help you grow even further? Like what gaps do you see in the content? And so allowing them to kind of be a part of that conversation in that way. And I tell you, like the things that come out of those conversations alone, it's stuff that I a lot of times didn't even think about. Like it was just gaps in my own knowledge. And I think a lot of times, like when we keep things too close to the chest, like we don't open our eyes to the opportunities there. So I think that's really the biggest thing is having a conversation with them, but also too, of course, like just on a tactical level, paying attention to what kind of industries are connecting with the listener, what kind of topics, like what kind of titling and things like that is working on a more on a specific level there with strategy. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, again, going back to just having conversations with the audience outside of the podcast and understanding what they're really needing and looking for.
I'm so glad you touched on this because I think it's so easy to kind of discard like those small
Yeah.
conversations. But every time you have a conversation like that, you are creating a super fan as well because they feel heard and now they feel
Mhm.
connected to you even more than they maybe only listen to one or two episodes. Well, now they've talked to you and they're going to start to notice that you are taking their feedback and
Yeah.
implementing it. And so I love that you brought that up because no podcaster can be too big to just like have those conversations and ask the questions. And if somebody is reaching out to you, instead of just saying, thank you, I'm so glad you're enjoying the content, taking it a step further and engaging in that conversation to pull out more information is so useful. And it's going to show in the content and the ratings and the downloads and the growth as a whole. So that's so fantastic.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think to your point too, it increases that buy-in so they feel like they
Mm.
have kind of a stake in what you're creating. And I think just going one step further too is personalization and specific call outs. So, of course, asking permission, like if someone does throw out a topic or a question, say, "Hey, do you mind if I give you a shout out on the show?" Like, and that I think too really creates that excitement from the listener and hearing their name being called out on the show, and just being a part of that story in and of itself too is so huge. So, yeah.
I love that. Okay, so pull me into how long have you had this podcast for? And what do you feel have been some of the biggest like growth needles for you with the podcast?
Yeah. So the show has been around for 4 years now. So we're recording this April of 2025. So literally this month, technically, is the 4 year anniversary. However, we started on Clubhouse.
Mm,
So I don't know if you remember Clubhouse, but
I know.
Clubhouse was like this big audio room, like live event type of platform. It was huge during the pandemic. So we started there and we realized 3 months in, we're like, these conversations we're having are awesome, but we can't record them. So we pivoted to podcasting in June. And my co host and I, when I first launched, I had an amazing co host, and we did not know anything about podcasting, but we're like, we're just going to do it and go for it and see what happens. And it was amazing the first few years. And I would say, to answer your second question with moving the needle, I think video, so launching video, and we were a little late to the game. We launched video probably last year, mid to late last year. So launching video was huge because then we had more content to put out there on social, and then leveraging YouTube in a deeper level. So that was really helpful. And then I would say, too, one of the biggest things, honestly, that has helped just in terms of growth overall is exposure through guests. So we have some amazing conversations with guests from all different industries and backgrounds, and using that as an opportunity to connect with new people. So making it so easy for our guests to share the show, and ensuring they have assets and links to the proper channels and everything, just to make it easy for them to want to share that out to their networks. And that's helped to bring new people into our space. And then making sure with that there's alignment between the guest audience with our audience, right? So that helps too, just because that connection is a little bit deeper. So I would say those two things. And then also just opening the door to other products and opportunities. We hosted a live event last year, for example, and being able to be in person, connecting one to one with listeners who have only heard our voices for so long. So just allowing the consumer and the audience to connect with your brand on a deeper level, that was huge for us early on as well.
Oh, I bet. So I want to hear a little bit more of, because I'm all about the co-marketing strategy and really almost giving your guests like tasks or just empowering them to share it
Mm.
instead of just saying, "Hey, it's going live next week at this time." What does that look like? Do you just like create assets for them, send them over, or like do you ask them? What does your process look like there?
So I typically will create assets for them, for the guests, and I'll provide it to them via email in advance. So every guest, for example, knows when their episode is going live in advance. And if there's a launch or something we want to kind of co-align that episode going out with, we have that conversation in advance. But yeah, it's really just handing over assets to them, and picking things that are a good reflection of the episode. So kind of speak to the value of what the audience would learn. And it's just offering a little bit of a tease there for that. So that's anything from static graphics to video content, but also sending them the full episode once it's live too, just so they have that link to share out. So that's really it. So it's just communication from early on when activating with the guests in the first place, all the way through, "Hey, your episode is live, congrats, like thank you again so much for joining me, here's the link to share out to your audience," and just continuing that communication all the way through the process.
I love that. I really encourage people to do more of that and to just like dig a little bit deeper. And especially with AI now, it's like we can
Yeah.
create these assets a little bit at a quicker pace. So, what would you say? I mean, 4 years is a long time for a podcaster. Congratulations!
Thank you.
And what's a tip or a trick or a lesson that you've learned along the way that you think would be important to share with other podcasters?
Oh man. So consistency is everything. So to your point, like 4 years is a long time. Most podcasts, I don't know the exact stat, but I feel like we podcasters throw these stats out all the time. But it's like most shows don't make it past episode 10. Like most shows end after a year. They don't even last a year or whatever. So, you see these stats online about how many podcasts there are online. And the point is most of those podcasts aren't active anymore because people get burnt out so quickly from the process. I mean, it's a beast producing and hosting a podcast. So I would say build consistency, but I think the consistency really truly comes from having your why behind your show. So again, we throw that term around all the time, but it really is so important to understand why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you providing this content in the first place? How is it a part of your bigger marketing function as well? But also, who are you doing it for? Like what is the purpose behind this show? Because at the end of the day, podcasting is hard. As we mentioned, it's a lot of work. However, if you keep remembering why you're doing it outside of just exposure and like the accolades and things that come from podcasting, if they do come, having that in mind is so incredibly important. And I think also with that too, just making sure you really have your differentiator locked down. So, yes, there's a lot of podcast content out there, marketing podcasts, like there's quite a few, right? So it's like, what is your different angle that you are providing in this space? How are you going to be talking to your audience versus other podcasts? Like, what is that value that you're offering? So I think all of that stuff, not just for your launch when you're first starting, but all the way through the history and longevity of your show, you have to remember that stuff because it's going to be so easy to just fizzle out and stop doing it. So,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, absolutely. And yeah, it is. The stats are funny, but 4 years in the podcasting is a long time. So I admire anyone who can do that. I think it's wonderful. Okay, you touched on like where the marketing or where the podcast sits within your marketing ecosystem. As a marketer and as somebody who works, I'm assuming some of your clients also have podcasts. Like, where is it important for the podcast to sit within the marketing ecosystem, the marketing funnel? Like, what do you do with that? Where does it sit in yours or clients that you work with?
So I will say transparently with my brand, I'm still figuring this out. And the reason I say that is because I did launch with a co host, and the way that we kind of built the show out and who it was angled for, we were both consulting at the time. I'm still consulting. She ended up getting a full time position. So looking at the audience of her show, it's not necessarily the audience of people who would start working with us as consultants. So that was kind of an interesting roadblock to kind of think through and figure out like how can we monetize this even outside of sponsorships, like are there products we can create, is there a service we can start offering? So I think that's an interesting thing. I will say for me it has worked out because a lot of the people I'm bringing on are from the brand side. They're always looking for consultants to help them with certain things. So thankfully, even without even thinking about it, that has transitioned to paying clients, which is awesome. But it's also transitioned to other podcasting opportunities. I've had brands engage me as a podcast host and pay me for that skill. Again, something I never expected to happen. So I do think even if you do create this ecosystem and plan for your podcast, be open to these other random opportunities that may come even when you least expect it, because I truly do believe that podcasting is such a huge exposure opportunity for you. I mean, having your face and voice and likeness and brand all over the place is huge, and people start to pick up on that, and that's why the consistency is huge. But I will say right now I'm still figuring it out. I'm figuring out how do I get people building my email list is the number one call to action for me right now, but it's how can I then create some sort of offering for that audience, millennial and Gen Z marketing professionals, to add more value to them. So I would say it's kind of like a side brand from my day to day. Now, if I was either working with a client or starting another podcast more tied into kind of what I offer, again, I would make sure it's kind of that inbound funnel in your marketing strategy. So there's a lot of exposure opportunities with podcasting. People come across your episodes on the platforms. They see a guest that they follow come on your show, and you're kind of bringing people into that your world that way. So I would say make it easy for them to jump to the next step. So email list is a great next step. I would always recommend, if you're going to put one call to action in your episodes, make sure people are signing up for your list, because then from there you can convert them to, maybe it's a mini course or a larger course or something, but making sure that the content you're providing that specific CTA for is tied to whatever that end offering is, of course. So it takes some deeper thinking, but most of my clients use it as kind of that top of the funnel. Let's get people in, provide really great free value, and then how do we get them to the next step, whether it's courses, products, speaking engagements, etc.
I love it. I mean, it's music to my ears anytime somebody's saying, get your podcast listeners on your email list. I'm like, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, this is what I teach.
Yes.
So I love
Yep.
hearing that. And it's a beautiful way to position yourself as a thought leader, really, and use
Mhm.
that content. So I want to also hear your how you repurpose your content. I know you touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
You said we did video. That was a big growth lever for you. But
Mhm.
walk us through your process for repurposing and using it to the max.
Yeah. So I love podcasting for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons I love it is because it is kind of a macro piece of content. It's this long form piece of content that you can turn into probably like per episode, tens, maybe hundreds of pieces of content. I mean, there's so many different ways to use it, right? So for me right now, the biggest thing is I have kind of this internal funnel that I go through, and definitely document your process. That's another thing I'll say. Write an SOP, even if it's just you producing your content. So when you hand off that process to someone else, you have it documented. But for me, it kind of looks like recording the video. The videos turned into snippets for social media. So that's social media content that goes on a number of different platforms. My guests have access again to that content to use on their channels. And then that content's also turned into a blog post on my episode. So that's another thing. We can now transcribe episodes and turn them into even deeper value driven content pieces tied into our podcast episodes. And that helps with SEO and like a number of different benefits on our website. So that's another thing. And then also, a lot of times, like sometimes my email content is tied into podcast episodes, going deeper on that. But I definitely include the podcast, at least a snippet of information in my emails. But sometimes too, I'll even go deeper on that content in my email. So as you can see, one episode turns into content for three different channels. And depending on what I'm doing, sometimes that can be more, can inspire a mini course. I've done that for clients too, where we'll take an episode and we'll kind of go deeper on it in a mini course, or we turn that content into a live event or an online event or whatever. So I think, again, paying attention to how can we go deeper on this content, but also how can we shorten the content and provide, more snippet type style of information and content to consume. So there's a number of different ways that you can do that. And as you mentioned earlier, there's tools that we can leverage for making that so much easier today, which is so, so amazing.
Well, coming from a podcast expert, you are doing so many things right. Your clients are so lucky to have you on their in their
Oh,
corner. Yeah,
thank
amazing.
you.
I love it. Everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, this is so good.
I know
Okay,
you get it. I love it.
I know. I just love it that to hear people are saying those things and using those tactics. So good. So, okay, digital marketing is changing all the time. I mean, I've been in it for 7 years probably with Cynthia Garcia, then Amy, then Kathy Heller. And it's like, you have to have a pulse on it. So, I mean, constantly. And as a marketing consultant, like, how do you stay on top of the trends? And are there any that you're really excited about this year?
Oh, man. Okay, so how do you stay on top of the trends? I would say the biggest thing is using the platform. So speaking to social media first, or even email or any of this stuff, using the platforms yourselves to test different strategies and approaches. So that is the number one way I will say, like, went to school for PR, love my school and everything. However, to your point, everything changes so quickly that we really have to be doing the work every single day to keep tabs on what's going on because things change so fast. And unless we're actually doing it, building experience, we don't know how to approach those different changes. So I would say that's the biggest thing is experience. The second thing is there's a lot of amazing resources out there to pay attention to what strategies should I be testing. Your podcast, for example, what should I be doing? What is Kylie testing that I can now implement into my own business and try that for myself? There's newsletters, social media today. If you're keeping tabs on the social media platforms, that's a great one. They release algorithm updates and different updates to the platforms pretty much as they're happening. And so, reading, consuming as much as possible, surrounding yourself by thought leaders and people in the space who are also doing the work, sharing those strategies with other people, having friends in the space too has been really helpful. So, I would say that's the biggest thing. And then, in terms of what I'm most looking forward to, I would say video, of course, is been around for a bit. So I'm excited for that evolution. And we're going back and forth between long form is performing better, no short form. And now we're back in this long form world, which is really exciting for us podcasters. But I would say that's one. But also, one thing that is so heavily emphasized in the world of marketing right now is the importance of community. And I know that's such a cliche answer to give, but I love how pretty much every brand is figuring out ways to go deeper with their community. And I'm seeing in person events are becoming bigger, brands and founders connecting one to one with their consumers. And so, really dropping the veil on this detachment from the consumer, like really brands are getting more and more integrated with their audiences more than ever. And so I think no matter if you're launching today or you've launched and you're growing your business for 7 years, it's like, how can you go deeper with your audience? How can you provide even more opportunities to build that relationship with them? And that is not, no matter how much AI is developed, no matter how much technology is developed, that will continue to stand the test of time. Like I am confident that will not go away pretty much ever. I would think. So it's just how can you start that now? How can you humanize your brand and really connect with your consumer? And I'm excited to see that continue to develop and for brands to get even more creative with that too.
I'm right there with you. And it goes back to what we said early on in this episode. It's like having that, taking the time to have that conversation with a listener who reaches out and,
Mhm.
says something in your messages and they compliment you, having those conversations. And I also think of Laura Meyer. I just had her on and she
Mm.
talked about relationship marketing. And it's like, it is a little bit more of a slog, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I believe that when you have those touch points so intimately with your customers, that's when you create those lifelong customers who are going to, they say that there's also a stat, I don't know off the top of my head, but like
Yeah.
having a repeat customer is the lifetime value is so much easier than, going out and finding
Mhm.
new people, which, we want to do both. But so you saying that, I feel like everybody's confirmed exactly what you're saying and I'm here for it. Like I
Yeah.
love it. It's like you and me. I'm like, I can't wait for how we're going to collaborate to serve our audiences and all
Yeah.
those good things. So brilliant.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
good.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. And I just think about too, like putting myself in the shoes of the consumer as well. Like for me, it's so funny. The other day, I had a conversation with this influencer that I follow, and she responded to me, and I like got excited. And I'm like, that simple notion of just responding and engaging with someone on the other side, and not only responding once, but like taking the time to keep responding and like having a conversation with them. Stuff like that that we think is so simple and basic, that stuff really goes a long way with consumers. So even just starting with that, I'd recommend, anyone out there just making sure that you're prioritizing just that to start, respond, engage publicly in the comments, but also in the DMs, and that kind of stuff goes a long way.
Oh, for sure. So good. Okay. I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Two, but we'll keep them quick. Okay. One, if you could sit down with any podcaster, who would it be and why? And maybe you already have, I guess. I don't know.
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about this. So many names come to mind, like Amy
Mm.
Porterfield, of course, is one, Jenna Kutcher, like all these people that I've listened to for years. I do like more guilty pleasure-ish. Alex Cooper's fun just because like she's grown this massive brand and now this whole media company that she's built off of her podcast is insane. So even just getting to sit down and talk with her about the process for that. But yeah, I'll leave it at those 3 for now, but I'm sure I could come up with, like, a list of a million other names too.
So good. Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so
Yeah.
Cassie, tell my listeners where they can learn more about you, what you have going on, your podcast, all the good things.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, marketinghappyhr.com is where you can find everything about the podcast, the link to the show, all the social accounts attached to the show as well. LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform. So, you can find me at Cassie Tucker. It's just my name. And then I'm Marketing Happy Hour is attached to my profile as well. So, that's where you can find me.
And I will say, I'll add one more thing first. I'll link all of those up. But if you are not on
Yeah.
Cassie's email list, be sure you get on her email list. When she was talking about like the algorithms and things like that, your weekly newsletter, I always read. I always make
Thank
sure I'm
you.
in the loop because you have so many good insights in it. So I'd recommend anyone who's listening to hop on Cassie's newsletter, which we'll link up as well. But Cassie, thank
Awesome.
you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Take care.